This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts. Well, good day, folks. This is Jerry.
And I'm Mark.
And we're bringing you the latest episode. We're not bringing you the next episode or the previous episode. This is this episode of the Horror Movie Show.
And the only one.
The only one that we're recording at this very moment. We will never reuse material from this show for any
Unless
other.
we can get away with it.
Unless we don't tell you, in which case, are we any better than politicians? I think we're better than politicians.
I love it when they show, the Daily Report will show you, like, 10 years ago they said this. They're still saying that.
Yeah, the Daily Show, Jon Stewart's show. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, who would ever remember that? Oh, wait. And then they have the exact quote to make the politicians look like the liars that they...
Not necessarily liars, but yeah, they do show contradictions. But they also show you that certain things have been said over and over. And we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do that. And it's like 20 years later, and they're still saying it.
Yeah.
We got to do this.
Yeah, well,
you know, it's like, then go do it.
Shutting down Guantanamo, the number of times that Obama said within a year of being elected it would be shut down. Yeah. And it's now, into his 5th or 6th year as president? And
and, you know, every time he talks about it, he looks defeated.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh man, I can't get it done.
He is getting hooped by the Republicans and the teabaggers and their policy of simply not doing anything that would make him look
good,
effective,
or whatever. I mean, they'll do anything they can to make him look bad, which is really sad because, you know, Americans get with the program. Yeah. He's your president. Yeah, you should be supporting your president.
Where's their so-called patriotism?
Yeah, it's like he's trying to do good.
They'll get their turn. Sure, you know, they're such babies. It's a black guy. I think it's all down to black people. You know,
it's like it's sad. It's sad.
It is.
It really is.
Hey, I wanted to mention that. Episode or two ago, we were talking about Indians, and we were using the term Indian for, you know, the indigenous people of North America. Being Canadians, that isn't considered an offensive term. I remember hearing on the CBC radio once an interview with some native rights people, and the interviewer said, "What do you prefer to be called politically correct?" And he said, "Oh, in the U.S. they worry about it, but in Canada, we're Indians." So you know, I didn't mean to be offensive to any of our American listeners.
Yes, you did.
Because, of course,
in other respects,
Indians are actually people from India.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, been
maybe
mislabeling.
We're insulting them then.
Yeah, we should call them, I don't know, native New Yorkers.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right, anyway, that's just my liberalism coming out, worrying that I'm offending people when I'm probably not.
That's funny because you offend me every time you see me.
Oh, shut up. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
I'm just saying you're offensive.
I am. It's one part body odor.
Two parts
ego, sarcasm, nastiness, my just general childish nature. It's good to laugh about these things.
Well, especially when we're telling the truth.
All right, so here we are, episode 108, folks. We're going to begin this episode. Well, we are mostly going to be talking about Wes Craven. This is part 2 of our Wes Craven retrospective.
I think it's done well that we don't, you know, we can talk about other things as well as his movies, so that Indeed. It's not.
You mean like what an awful person I am?
No, yeah, especially that.
Well, how would you compare me with Wes Craven?
Well, you have less creativity, but
less money.
You got more facial hair.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Nobody can beat me in facial hair. I am really going for the Robinson Crusoe look these days.
Although it looks like you trimmed it.
No, I haven't. Well, around the mouth because I was eating way too much whisker. That sounds dirty. I didn't mean it that way. Lay off the whisker, boy. Okay. All right, so we're going to start the show first with a new movie, The Haunting in Connecticut 2, Ghosts of Georgia.
So why are they calling it The Haunting in Connecticut when it has nothing to do with Connecticut?
That's the stupidest title that I have heard in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's like calling it Star Trek V, Star Wars.
Why, if they wanted to recall the rather mediocre movie The Haunting in Connecticut, why didn't they just call it The Haunting in Georgia?
Yeah.
And that way, they'd be next to each other on a shelf.
Sure.
So, it really is. It's the stupidest title because it has nothing to do with the previous movie.
No, not whatsoever.
Absolutely nothing.
It has something to do with ghosts. That's about it.
Directed by Tom Elkins, written by David Coggeshall or Cogeshall. I don't know. Weird name. Stars Abigail Spencer as Lisa Wyrick, Emily Allen Lind as Heidi Wyrick, Chad Michael Murray as Andy Wyrick, Grant James as Mr. Gordy, and Katie Sackhoff as Joyce.
So she doesn't get a last name?
I think she was Aunt Joyce, wasn't she? Yeah.
Something
now, as angry, childishly angry as I got right off the bat because of the stupidity of the title.
It's not a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie. No. I just wish that they hadn't, their marketing department hadn't been the ones to decide what to call this thing.
And strangely enough, only a $9 million budget.
Was it? Yeah.
Which is really low.
Yeah, it is low these days. Yeah, and it looked good. It was nicely done. I enjoyed it a lot more than the
first one.
The first Haunting in Connecticut. Perhaps the problem is Connecticut.
Yeah.
As soon as you get away from that horrible, horrible Connecticut with its silent C.
Yeah.
You get away from Connecticut and you go to Georgia, yes, that's where the fun begins. The plot is that this young family has moved into a house. They've got a little girl whose main acting talent is to be able to look worried all the time. She's a very worried-looking little 10-year-old. She did a pretty good job. She's not a bad little actress. And the family's moved into this house, big rambling mansion in Georgia. They are told early on that it was a stop on the Underground Railroad, what they called a station.
Yeah.
And the station master at the time would help escaping slaves, and he'd put them in a hole out in the woods where they would be safely hidden. But unfortunately, he was also a psychotic, and he didn't let all of them go.
Yeah, I kind of suspected this doesn't get...
He's a taxidermist.
Yeah, this doesn't get revealed to the very end. You could suspect that something like this was going to happen.
Terrible. Well, there's lots of hints.
Anyway, the little girl is seeing these ghosts. It seems like every member of the family was seeing different...
All of females in the family. Yeah. The mom is constantly taking some kind of pill because she's got visions constantly.
Yes, and the aunt...
And Aunt Joyce is more, like, let's embrace our witchery.
Yeah, well, not necessarily witchery, but...
whatever the magic power
psychic
is.
ability of seeing into other dimensions or whatever it is.
Yeah. And the little girl is now at the age where she's starting to see
these things as well. And they all see different things.
Yeah.
Except for there's a couple things that is the same, but mostly they're seeing different apparitions.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And some are scary and some are friendly, and the little girl has made an invisible friend called Mr. Gordy.
Yeah, who was the previous owner of the house.
Yes, but we're never quite sure whether he is the one... It is revealed, of course, as you say, later in the movie. I don't want to give too much away, but we're not sure whether her invisible friend, Mr. Gordy, is the guy who did these terrible, awful murders, or if he's a ghostly helper trying to keep her safe.
No, I was under the impression that he was a relative, the grandson of the original person.
That's what we eventually find out. But early in the movie, we don't know who he is. All we know is that he's an invisible man dressed in a fashion that could have been 200 years ago or 50 years ago. We don't know whether he's a benign spirit or an evil spirit.
He shows him where money is, so...
That's right. He proves to the dad, who's extremely cynical about this at the beginning. The little girl says, I'll show you where there used to be a swing. And there's a tree with a great branch and just the rusty dregs of chains hanging off the very top of it.
Right.
And, of course, that's scary. Was it a swing?
Yeah, exactly.
Was it nooses? What the hell was that?
We see a few spirits kind of using the swing.
Swing. Oh, yes, I think it was a swing, but that branch may have been used for
other things as well.
Too. And the little girl says, oh, yeah, plus Mr. Gordy says there's money buried at such and such a place. And when the dad and the aunt come back with a big box of gold doubloons or whatever it is, but
it wasn't that big. It was
a nice stash. If that was solid gold.
Smaller than a bread box.
Yeah, but if it was solid gold, that's thousands of dollars Anyway, the dad is fairly quickly won over to the side that there may be something to the little girl's visions.
Yeah.
And the aunt, of course, is on her side. It's the mum.
Who's trying to deny it all.
Who's trying to deny it all because she doubts her own sanity. Plus their mum, that is grandma of the little girl, the mother to the aunt and the mother, had gone nuts in an insane asylum.
Yes.
In a rather horrible way.
Because she had the vision too.
And she tried to deny it with drugs and so on. And that's what Aunt Joyce says, is you're doing the same thing that Mum did, and look how that turned out.
Yeah.
So the aunt is all for embracing it all, and well, maybe she shouldn't, because something pretty nasty happens to her. Actually, something nasty happens to just about everybody in this movie at one point or another.
Yeah.
It was a good ghost story. It's not as good, in my opinion, as Mama, but it was a good, fast-paced, entertaining ghost movie. I would recommend it.
I would recommend it as well. Yeah. I thought it, other than the naming of the thing, it handled the...
Never let your PR guy decide on the name of your movie.
I think they just wanted to know it was the same group of people making it.
I suppose, but it's goofy. It's really goofy.
It definitely had its charm, revealed little by little through the ghosts and everything, and the history, finding out about the history of the area and things.
Yeah.
And, of course, there is that little twist at the end with what was really happening with a few of the slaves that were, were not getting away.
Yeah. And also, like, anytime that somebody points out, hey, it isn't movies like this that cause psychos to go violent. There have always been psychos throughout human history.
Right. Well, it's like there's always been gays, yet people are trying to say that, it's unnatural.
Well, I put it a different way. I would say that there have always been bad people choosing to be gay. I was joking.
Okay, so now
I was joking about this with my gay cousin, my darling cousin Roger, and we were really laughing over that because it's like, oh no, I decided to have blue eyes.
Yes.
Give me a break.
Well, you decided to have a beard.
That's true, but I didn't decide the color of the beard.
But the thing is, but that's not true. You didn't decide to have a beard. I decided not to have one.
Right.
You see,
that's right.
Because you would have a beard.
I decided not to shave.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm not shaving any of my body. Not anymore. I don't care who complains.
And we do. We complain.
I am looking more and more like Cousin It.
Get that panty line under control.
My VPL. All right, I'm glad you like this movie too, Mark, because it was a surprise after that rotten title. I was really expecting...
Yeah,
I probably even wanted to dislike it.
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Wanted to.
Yeah, wanted to, yeah. Okay, so let's get on with that Wes Craven guy.
You realize his name is really Wesley.
Wesley, yes.
Which is not as manly as you might want to think.
But also Craven. One wonders if he's a Craven coward. And he's trying to work things out with all the things that he's terrified of because by making these movies.
Which is really surprising because Wesley Snipes, on the other hand, embraces the name Wesley.
But don't forget, he snipes at people.
He's a snipe.
He's a sniper.
No, he's a snipe. He's one of those birds that you go looking for.
Yes. Well, people say that the snipe doesn't exist, but in fact there's a water bird called the snipe.
There you go.
There you are. Just don't take your friend's word that you have to sit by a path with a sack all night.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting into what is probably his biggest movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Only because it became a staple.
Mega series.
Yeah. And Freddy Krueger was so popular.
Yeah. And they remade that in 2010, and there is a sequel in development, of course. The reboot was okay, but it wasn't as good as the original, the 1984 written and directed by Wes Craven. Stars Heather Langenkamp. Now, her name's going to come up in other Craven movies, so I think it's interesting. He seems very loyal. He hires the same actors when he can. So, yeah, of course, we've got Robert Englund as Fred Krueger, which I think is funny. He wasn't a Freddy in the first movie. He's Fred Krueger. Well, you could have made him Frederick Krueger or Alfred Krueger. Fred Krueger, Robert Englund, pretty much the only thing that he's done.
Or Wilfred.
Or Wilfred, yeah. Yeah. Little Freddy Krueger. Amanda Weiss is Christina Gray. Juice. I think I mistyped that. Somebody Garcia is Rod Lane. Johnny Depp is in the first movie. That's right. I did not remember that.
I remember reading that
he's one of the teens in the movie.
Wes Craven actually hired a lot of famous people before they were famous.
Right. Charles Fleischer, who was a character, he was a guy on Welcome Back, Kotter. He's another Facebook friend of mine and stand-up comedian.
He won't admit it, though.
He's kind of nutty. I like it, though. He puts up these extremely cryptic little word games. And he also does the most amazingly weird computer graphics that he puts up on his Facebook page. Okay. Yeah. Charles Fleischer, he plays Dr. King, the absolutely awful John Saxon. I remember him from about 50 million
is he
appearances
Canadian?
On TV. I don't believe so. No, you're thinking of another.
No, I'm thinking of John Saxon.
No, I don't believe he's...
Because I know John Saxon.
Ronnie Blakely, who... another Facebook friend. She was so good in Nashville, and here she is playing Marge Thompson, one of the mums in this. She plays the main mum, as John Saxon plays the dad of Heather Langenkamp's character, Nancy. There's a big secret in this town where these kids are going to high school. The secret is that their parents did something absolutely awful to a child abuser, or at least a suspected child abuser. And now the demonic ghost of Freddy Krueger has come back to exact revenge on the children of the people who killed him. They burned him to death, hence the reason
scarring.
He looks so hideous.
Yes.
Yeah. But, he wears a nice rugby shirt, and he's got a nice little felt hat. He's quite a jaunty villain.
Does he have the claws?
Oh, yes, he's got the cutting fingers. And he's always got a wisecrack. He's right in there in the school of Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis with the horrible pun as somebody is going to a miserable death. Pull yourself to pieces. It's just awful.
I think that's the reason why he became, he had a following.
There's a big hit series.
Yes, because it's because of him.
Everything else changed. Heather Langenkamp was in a couple more of these movies, but Freddy is the thread running through all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they become Freddy movies. They even got to such ridiculous places that it was Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
There's like Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
There's no reason that these two monsters should meet, but hey, let's do it.
That's when it gets really silly.
That is, really silly. And a pretty obvious money grab. I'll just mention some of the sequels. The first sequel, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, that was 85. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, 87. This is the kids fighting back. A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, in 88. Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child, in 89. I guess somebody got pregnant from the Dream Master. And then in 91, the titled one differently, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
And then he went on to fight Jason. That was in 91. And the remake, A Nightmare on Elm Street, in 2010 with the sequel in development, as I just mentioned.
Now, the first movie was $1.8 million to make.
Wow.
And they made 26, so they were doing really well.
Oh, in 1980, that's damn good.
The remake, $35 million.
You mean the first sequel or the remake?
The remake.
The recent remake?
Yeah, $35 million.
Okay.
And it only made twice as much. So percentage-wise, the first one did much better than the second one.
Right. Well, and I think it's a better movie. I think the humor was better, and while I didn't dislike the reboot, these reboots, and I'd even include the new Star Trek movie in this. I don't mean Into Darkness. I mean the one from a couple of years ago. That's a bit of a cheat. It's a little bit of a cheat to, just take something that is so loved and to just say, well, let's see if we can
change it.
No, let's see if we can get the heart beating again, and force it to work for us for another 20 years.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. But
well, what do you think?
This is a business. This is making movies is a business. It's not art.
What do you think they're going to do with Star Wars?
Oh, I know. And they're giving it to J.J. Abrams after he just made such a hash of Star Trek.
Oh, don't. You're wrong. Just let it go.
I won't.
Let it go.
No, I won't. Hey, there hasn't been a good Star Wars movie since the Ewok one.
You call that a good one?
That was the third one?
The Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, those first three movies I liked, and then the three newer ones.
The second one was the best of the lot.
Yeah, it was all right. Well, I still think the first one was the best. The first one was the best, the second one second best, and the third one the least of those three. But at least they all hung together. At least they had a consistency. The three newer ones, stinkers. Just marketing ploys for toys and products, and I really I hope Abrams can goose them back to life.
Yeah,
back to fun.
Yeah,
They're so earnest, the three newer ones.
Yeah.
They get too much into the religion of the stupid force. And they contradict so much of what is said and done in the first three movies. They just contradict it with their mean-spiritedness. When the Scottish guy, Ewan, lets the young Darth Vader burn alive on the shores of the lava pit there, and he's like, you were supposed to be the one, and Darth is like, I'm burning, kill me or help me, but I'm burning, and Ewan McGregor's character is supposed to be like the absolute height of humanity and goodness. He just leaves him to die there by inches. It's horrible. I can't see how George Lucas let that happen. I just don't understand that.
Well,
it takes away from every single thing that Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is that guy, strives to teach Luke in the original three movies.
He had to do it because it wouldn't have fit.
I know
why Darth Vader
was crippled up. They couldn't have just explained it as like a fender bender gone out of control on a busy downtown road or something. It was so cruel and so out of keeping.
Well, I just think the whole idea of slaughtering kids, how he could even rationalize that.
Oh, it was horrible to even put it in
I thought that Robot Chicken did a better job. Just pretend they're daisies. They're picking daisies.
And scythe them all down.
Exactly. I mean, it's
horrible.
I couldn't believe
they call them the chitlins, the young'uns.
Young'uns, yeah. I'll have mine stir-fried, please.
So back to A Nightmare on Elm Street, because nobody wants to hear our stupid comments. They only want straight facts about A Nightmare on Elm Street. Did you like it? The original?
I was a kid back then.
Yeah, I know. More or less.
And I didn't really like movies like that. No, I didn't go to movies like that. In fact, I didn't see it until it was on video. So. Oh,
okay. I do believe I saw this one in the theater, and the scene right at the end when it appears that Freddy has been defeated, and the mom is standing on the front porch, waving goodbye to her kids as they drive away happily. The last two survivors are driving away happily. And the hand reaches out of the little peephole in the door, grabs the mum by the head, and pulls her through the peephole. Turns her into spaghetti. I thought that was the greatest jump that I've ever had in the theater. That was so good. Plus, it's Ronnie Blakely. She's so sweet and nice and pretty. And she just gets hauled skull first through that tiny opening.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
The end. Then you think, sequel? Maybe.
Well, at the time, there wasn't a lot of sequels.
Well, it wasn't the sequelitis that there is today.
Because now it's like a brand.
Yeah, everything is
a brand.
Is it potential for a sequel?
Yeah. I can appreciate it now.
Right.
But, at the time, I just wasn't into that.
If you're not a fan of
And plus the fact
movies,
what I disagree with, and we've discussed this before, is the fact that sometimes they don't even make these movies to have a proper ending because it's just like a preview to the next movie.
Yeah.
It's when they get into that type of mentality that I don't want to watch the series anymore.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I am not a fan of any of the sequels that came along to the original 84 Nightmare on Elm Street. There hasn't been a single one of them. I've watched most of them, and I have never enjoyed them. I just find them tiresome and repetitive. It's the same damn stuff, Oh, how long can the kids stay awake?
Well, that's one of the things about The Evil Dead is that the second
changed up.
The second movie and the third movie are not anything alike at all. The second one was really just a remake of the first one.
The first one is like a sketch.
Yeah.
And it's a super low budget, but it's got humor and it's got the potential. But you're right. Yeah, it wasn't until the second one that Sam Raimi really showed the story that he wanted to show.
Yeah, and that's when he had the budget and things like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get on to the next one. This is not strictly speaking a horror movie. It's called The Serpent and the Rainbow, 1988, directed by Craven, written by Richard Maxwell and Adam Rodman, based on a non-fiction book by anthropologist Wade Davis. I think I've mentioned this before. I interviewed him back in the late 80s. I think when this movie was coming out, we got absolutely smashed at a pub. It was great fun. One of several famous people I've gotten drunk with. Famous people like to drink. That's what I've noticed. So
as much as you do.
Last time we moved from a condo to a tiny little house, I found my notebooks from when I was working at the magazine. It was called Plus Magazine, a little weekly entertainment magazine with listings and stuff. And I found my notes of my interview with Wade, and I kept writing notes the whole night, and we were in the pub for like 4 or 5 hours, and my notes are like my normal writing, and they just get bigger and weirder until by the last couple of pages I can't read it. I can't read it at all. But he's a super nice guy, and he's got a series on right now where he's talking anthropology and stuff like that. So he's still around, he's still producing. Now the movie stars Bill Pullman as Dennis Allen.
Oh, he must have been young.
Kathy Tyson as Marielle Duchamp. Paul Winfield, who's a longtime stage actor. He's also big in the Star Trek series. He was in the Wrath of Khan, and he was also the Darvok from Epsilon or whatever. Remember when Jean-Luc Picard is stuck on a planet with another alien captain? But the other alien captain, their language is only sort of similes and metaphors.
That's right. Similes.
When Darmok met Salam or something like that, whatever. Anyway, so that's the actor, Paul Winfield. And good old English actor, scary-looking dude, Michael Gough as Schoenbacher. So what it's about, it is very loosely based on Wade Davis's book. Bill Pullman playing an anthropologist who wants to find out, he's on the trail of whether or not there truly are zombies. And so he goes...
A worthy cause.
Yeah. That's well, as an anthropologist, it's, that's the sort of thing they do. So he goes to Haiti, and he gets deep into the culture, and there's all kinds of horrible scenes where chickens are being beheaded and the squirming body blood is sprinkled around. Black magic, whatever, voodoo. Whatever the Haitian voodoo priests believe, and so on. And by the end of the movie, of course, Bill has been dosed with the zombie powder and buried. And he's alive, but he's totally paralyzed. And it's a terrifying scene. However, I didn't think it was a very good movie overall. I thought it was kind of slow, and I've never thought much of Bill Pullman as an actor because he looks like an accountant. And I'll never forget the comedian who said that what is with Bill Pullman's voice in Independence Day when he plays the president in a jet fighter battling alongside the hillbillies and so on against the alien spaceship. And the comedian says, since when does Bill Pullman talk like this? When did his voice change and start talking like this? Damn it, I'm the president. We will defeat the aliens. And he's like, up until then, he talked in like a perfectly normal, quiet, calm voice. I guess he's trying to be the tough president.
Yeah, well...
and you know who wanted to be like him? George W. Bush.
Is that right?
Dressed up in that flight suit.
Yeah.
He thought he was Bill Pullman in Independence Day.
That's it.
Yeah. Punk.
Yes.
dirty lying little punk. I would seriously have a fist fight with George W. Bush. But
you still don't believe in the death penalty.
No, I wouldn't kill him. I'd just break his nose. But, he'd probably beat me because he'd fight much dirtier.
Oh, yeah.
He would be biting crotches. He would be, ramming things up your bum. He'd do that
for pleasure.
Yeah, I know. It's Dick Cheney would be on all fours so that W could push me over it. Did you say you'd seen The Serpent and the Rainbow, Mark?
A long time ago. Yes.
Do you remember anything about it?
The witch doctors.
Witch doctors.
Yeah, I remember the zombie dust and him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a $7 million budget. It made 3 times that, so
okay.
He was doing okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing about Wes Craven, and his movies usually made money.
Right.
He very rarely did he do a bomb.
Yeah. Well, he became a big name. If a movie was by John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper, there's going to be a significant but probably deeply disturbed following who will go and see anything.
Yeah, but even Wes Craven's put his name on things that he didn't direct.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So, it's like a brand again.
Oh, again. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, the movie after this, 1989's Shocker, he goes back to writing and directing. And I quite like this movie, but I think this is the first time that he used this device, which is a maniac killer, in this movie played by Mitch Pileggi, who has made a pact with the dark side, and so when he is executed in the electric chair, his essence or his soul or whatever goes into the electrical grid so he can
go into someone else?
He doesn't. Yeah, he can do that, but he's also doing things like he's controlling televisions and
okay.
Just basically anywhere there's an electrical outlet.
So if there's a vacuum cleaner there, you better watch out.
Well, it's like he'll come out of the electrical socket and zap you and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. No, he does. Yeah, the Pinker character does sort of go from body to body. And from what I remember of Shocker, he was trying to come up with another Nightmare on Elm Street, another franchise that he'd be able to continue on with Horace Pinker. Hence the silly names, I think, Horace Pinker?
I've heard that name before.
Menacing. Now, in this one, it's a boy rather than a girl. So instead of Heather Langenkamp in A Nightmare on Elm Street and its several sequels, in this one, it's a younger fellow named Peter Berg. He plays Jonathan Parker. Just like in Nightmare, his dad, played by Michael Murphy, is a lieutenant with the police. Ted Raimi shows up. He plays Pac-Man. I don't remember that character. And Heather Langenkamp is back in, but just as a victim. And then finally, of course, this being the late 80s, John Tesh from Entertainment Tonight is the TV newscaster. And I do believe he gets electrocuted on air.
Oh, does he?
By Horace.
Excellent.
Yeah. Which is probably worth seeing just on its own.
Just for that, yeah.
At least he wasn't singing at the piano.
Exactly. He became a very popular piano player, singer kind of guy.
Horrible, yeah. Same people who like Kenny G.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, mush. People with mush.
Barry Manilow, but not as good.
Oh, Lord, yeah, that's right. Neil Sedaka wannabes. Puerile crap.
How about Burt Cumming?
Burton Cumming?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did some pretty foul stuff. But hey, he was a heavy rocker with Three Dog Night.
I mean, American Woman and all that stuff. But yeah, strangely enough, he turned into a schlocky piano player.
Yeah, well, a lot of rockers do in their later years. Yeah.
A competent writer.
Stand tall, don't you fall. Oh, shut up.
Canada's pride.
Yeah, one of them. One of many.
Yes.
Now, have you seen Shocker?
No, I never did see that.
Oh, never did see that. Well, the Mitch Pileggi's character of Horace Pinker, he's fun. I enjoyed him. He's a hoot. Again, just like Freddy, he's all kinds of smart-ass comments and that, and of course the...
Has to do with shocking people.
Oh, mostly, yeah. And the kid is trying to get him out of the electrical grid and into like one isolated place. Yeah, so
like
that he can be ended. But at one point, the kid is sucked into Pinker's world, And this is why John Tesh shows up, because the kid is being pursued by Horace Pinker in TV land, and so they're sort of running from set to set, from program to program, as somebody switches channels.
Yeah, they did a parody of that on, I think, that.
Well, the Simpsons.
Simpsons did that.
Where they jammed, and they didn't have a battery for the remote, so
they put
jammed some plutonium
nuclear thing in there.
Yeah, and it put Bart and Lisa into TV land. And also, it's a little similar to a movie that came out around this time, the Twilight Zone movie.
Right.
In which the remake of the Billy Mummy...
Mummy.
Wishing...
Was it Mummy or Mummy?
M-U-M-Y. I don't know. The kid who could wish people into the cornfield.
Yeah.
In the movie, the kid wishes his sister into TV land, and she's being... cartoon land, and she's being pursued by the most monstrous... bad drawings.
This was
a wonderful episode.
It was filmed in 10 weeks.
Okay, Shocker?
Yeah, Shocker was filmed in 10 weeks and very low budget. It was a $5 million movie, made 16 at the time.
Very respectable.
So that's respectable.
You know, if a movie makes its money back, it's considered a success.
There you go.
If a movie doubles its money, it's a hit, and they will make a sequel. But for whatever reason, they never made a sequel to Shocker. And I don't know why.
It's shocking.
It is. Now, I've got
Wait for the remake.
I got a couple of movies of Wes Craven's that I really, really like. One is, strictly speaking, not a horror movie, and we'll be talking about that next episode, the third and last installment of our Wes Craven retrospective. But I'll tell you my favorite horror movie of his, and that is 1991's The People Under the Stairs.
Just the name.
I love that movie.
The name just kind of makes you wonder.
yeah, exactly. Written and directed by Craven. It stars Everett McGill as the man, Wendy Roby as woman, and what's nice about those two as the choice for the two main villainous characters is that they played husband and wife on, what's the TV series with Laura Palmer? David Lynch's Twin Peaks. So they were husband and wife, and they had a real weird relationship on Twin Peaks. She got a blow to the head or something and became super strong and believed that she was still a 16-year-old cheerleader. and Everett McGill's character, it was her husband and unhappy, married to her. And he was having an affair with Peggy Lipton's character, the gal who ran the diner in Twin Peaks.
She was in the Mod Squad.
That's right. So Everett in Twin Peaks, his character is, he has to be really careful because he doesn't dare cross his wife.
Yeah,
because she'll rip his arms off and beat him to
other
death.
Things.
Yeah, and beat him. So anyway, those two were a very funny choice for casting, I thought, and they really do have good chemistry in this movie. And they are, they are so twisted. They're brother and sister, but I think they're also supposed to be husband and wife.
Okay.
Yeah, there hasn't been that similar twisted plot since Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, also known as Flesh for Frankenstein, in which it's revealed about halfway through that when Dr. Frankenstein and his wife are talking about Mother und Vater, they're talking about the same people. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're going to make it sick, make it truly sick.
So what's the basic plot?
Well, the basic plot is that this young boy who's called Fool, played by Brandon Quinton Adams, he and I think it's his uncle Leroy, played by Ving Rhames, in an early role for Ving Rhames. He really didn't break out until Pulp Fiction a couple of years later. Then he became a big star on his own. But he and the boy break into this house, and it happens to be the house with the man and woman in it. Mm-hmm. And they've been capturing and storing people in the underside of their house, and the captives sort of live between the walls and under the stairs. There must be a big house. It is. It's a big house, and it's weird, and Everett McGill runs around in a full-body black geek suit, from Pulp Fiction, Get the Geek. The full black leather with the zipper mouth. And he's got a shotgun, and he's just blasting holes. And we don't know how many people are trapped in the walls of this house and under the stairs. But our little buddy
There's
Fool,
more than two.
There's quite a number. And they seem to be like hungry because they're very dangerous and they're real pasty. They look like zombies. But hey, if you hadn't been able to wash or feed yourself properly for a decade, I suppose you'd look like a zombie.
Yeah, I guess you would, but he wouldn't be exactly white, I don't think.
Because without sunlight?
Well,
people are looking pretty pasty.
Pretty dirty.
Yeah. Well, okay, all right. So anyway, the young kid, Fool, and he's a little black kid, and he does a great job in this, and his uncle, Ving Rhames, of course. And his uncle, I believe, is killed or at least driven out of the house, but the kid winds up trapped in the house, and he is rescued at one point from other maniacs in the house by a young girl named Alice, played by A.J. Langer. She's nice. Like, she's real sweet, and she just wants to get out of the house, too. But she's been in the house for so long that...
She doesn't know anything else.
Oh, she's kind of twisted her own self. She's naturally sweet. And that is very reminiscent of The Hills Have Eyes, where it's an innocent little girl, deformed as she is, who tries to save the family in the desert from her own maniacal, bloodthirsty family. So, Craven really... I wouldn't even say that he steals from other movies, but he borrows heavily from his own.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
If it worked once.
If it worked once, I suppose, yeah.
But then he has reoccurring things always happening.
He does.
He's always this demented family.
Yeah, he loves the demented family.
It's like it's a constant thing. He's going to find a different spin on a different weirdness in a family. Yeah. I wonder what his family life was like.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I want to know. I'm not going to the family reunion. Thank you anyway, Mr. Craven.
Exactly.
I think I'd rather eat at McDonald's, where the food is bad for me, but I know it's not human.
Or he might just know a lot of weird families. He's just writing what he sees.
Yeah. The thing that I really like about The People Under the Stairs is that it is most blackly comic of all his movies. It's the funniest of all his movies.
And he directed it.
He did. He wrote and directed it.
Okay.
And yet, extremely suspenseful. When Fool finds himself, he's in the house and he's having to escape from the man and woman. And at the same time, when he escapes and climbs through an air vent, now he finds himself trapped between the walls, and there's other things in there, which are probably at least as bad.
Right.
It's like a lot of suspense. This movie, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it probably above every other movie that Wes Craven has made. It just makes me laugh, but it's that nervous laughter where you think, oh, God, that's just too scary.
And plus, I imagine that you just don't know where it's going.
No, you have no idea. I mean, and when Everett McGill and Wendy Roby, when they lose their tempers, they're just absolute lunatics. And yet, ding dong, someone will be at the front door and she'll go, okay, everybody be quiet. And she'll go down and, hello, how can I help you? We had reports, ma'am, that there were shots fired. Oh, I don't know what that could be. My husband was working on his car. Sweet talking them to get them away. Meanwhile, there's people peeking out. It's total mania. So I really like that. But I want to get to the last one for this episode, which is the absolute worst movie that Wes Craven ever made.
So one after the other.
Yeah. As I say, he is probably the least consistent director that I can think of.
Yeah, this one didn't make much more than itself back.
Good.
And plus the fact that I heard something that in Rolling Stone...
What did it cost, by the way?
It was $20 million.
Oh, God.
I imagine that's because Eddie Murphy got a big chunk of that.
Oh, huge chunk, yeah.
Wes Craven doesn't usually have high-paying talent.
That's right. So, he had Johnny Depp in a movie, but when Johnny Depp was a kid.
Was nobody.
Yeah.
It says
that's right.
that Eddie Murphy stated to Rolling Stone that he made this movie for one reason. Paramount agreed to release The Nutty Professor, its rights, in exchange for finishing his deal with the studio, and that
which is one more movie. Okay. Movie. All right. Well, that's what this movie feels like. It feels like it was slapped together. Murphy, he gets co-credit for the story on which the screenplay is based. The screenplay was written by Charles Murphy, and I'm not sure whether that's his brother Charlie, who's funnier than Eddie Murphy ever was. He used to show up on Dave Chappelle's show and just tell stories about hanging with his famous brother.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Eddie was the star. Charlie, his brother, was just part of his entourage.
Right.
So got to enjoy the sweet life and interact with these lunatics. But unlike Eddie, Charlie is much tougher, I think, than Eddie Murphy was.
Really?
Like, if you screwed with Charlie, he would punch the hell out of you. And
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what he used to do on Dave Chappelle's show. It was just like, and now another story from Charlie Murphy. And he would just sit and just tell. And then Dave Chappelle would act out the story with that
I
Charlie
never
was
watched
telling.
the Dave Chappelle
it's
story.
really funny. The funniest story I can think of that Charlie tells is about meeting Rick James, the super freak.
Yeah.
Meeting the super freak in some club somewhere, and he's talking with him, and the next thing he knows, Rick James is just like taken a chair and clubbed Eddie Murphy over the head. I'm Rick James, bitch! And then it was like, well, I knew I had to get him back. I knew I had to. So then it's like, the story continues, but so funny. Dave Chappelle with the ridiculous long cornrows on, and the rings and the gold teeth as the idiot. Oh, it was so funny. Anyway, so the movie, I don't know if we mentioned the title here, Vampire in Brooklyn, 1995, directed by Wes Craven, who Eddie Murphy dragged to try to give it some semblance of being a horror movie. But it
was
is
a comedy.
It is neither a horror movie nor a good comedy.
But it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be a black comedy, but nobody in the movie that I found likable. Not one person in that movie did I give a damn about.
Right.
And that's tough. When you don't care about any of the characters.
Well, then it's not a good movie.
It's a bad movie. So Eddie Murphy plays 3 roles. He plays the last vampire alive, the last full vampire, Maximilian. He also forces himself on us as Preacher Paulie, who's like Harlem type.
Reverend.
Yeah, just a loudmouth Bible thumper. Then he puts on his pink makeup and plays an Italian low-grade hood called Guido. Oh, I don't know why. He just looked... No more than Al Jolson looked like a real black man.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy with white makeup on and his large flat nose and his big lips, he just looks ridiculous. He looks about as Italian as, Mao Zedong did. It's just stupid. But he keeps doing it. He keeps, movie after movie,
with a name like Mousy, of course he's Italian.
Yeah, really. The supposed heroine of the movie is Angela Bassett.
Oh, she's a hottie.
Oh, you're joking, right? She's a beast. She first came to attention when she played Tina Turner.
She did a good job in
biopic. She may have done a good job, but, Tina Turner was sexually attractive. Angela Bassett came out, and every scene where her arms were bare, they're like knotted up like freaking Tarzan, She looks like Popeye with her shirt
She is
off.
muscular, yes.
She's muscular and she's tall and she's always angry looking. She's just got one of those angry, heavy eyebrows. Well, of course, in the 95, I don't know, were women still like not plucking their eyebrows? And this is what I noticed watching this movie, and I only watched it last night. I forced myself to watch it last night because I knew we were going to be talking about it today. This is Angela Bassett's acting style. Every word she speaks in a sentence, she wiggles her eyebrows in time with what she's saying. So I realize you folks can't see me, but imagine my eyebrows going up on a sentence like, "Are you telling me you're a vampire?" And the eyebrows going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's ridiculous. It's not acting. It's pulling faces. But then that's what Eddie Murphy does. Maybe that's why he hired her.
Maybe.
Because they're both about the same level of acting.
Well, yeah.
She's bad in this anyway. No matter how good she is in Tina Turner biopic, she's bad
Eddie
in
Murphy
this.
came on like gangbusters when he did his first couple movies.
Yeah.
And
48 Hours.
Yeah, the 48 Hours and stuff like that. And he was wonderful in those things. But when he became very super famous, then he picked such bad projects.
Yeah.
And he tried to do things beyond his scope.
Ego on him is unbelievable.
Yeah. But
it's like Jerry Lewis in
I think he's come back a bit since then.
You think so?
I think in his later career and what he's doing now is a lot more realistic than what he did.
You think maybe 30 years of hearing people say, what an arrogant swine Eddie Murphy is? You think maybe that sunk in a little bit?
Or maybe he has a family life now, so maybe that's changed him because, Yeah.
His first stand-up comedy movie, which I think was Raw, but his first stand-up comedy movie was really, really funny, although he relied far too much on
swearing.
Well, not just swearing, but on the childish poo-pee fart jokes that he was doing when he was 15 years old and going to the comedy clubs doing stand-up.
Right.
Because when he was hired for Saturday Night Live, he was the youngest member they'd ever had on that show.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, up to that point anyway. And it's because he had started doing stand-up when he was just like 14, 15 years old. So Vampire in Brooklyn has got a few decent actors in it, but, you know, it's absolutely nothing special. And I would say that Joanna Cassidy, who plays the strict and angry Captain Dewey, the police captain, she's totally wasted in it, and her Brooklyn accent goes up and down and in and out. It's totally inconsistent.
So the only reason this is really a Wes Craven movie is because
he directed it.
He directed it,
Yeah.
but it probably not his choice.
Oh, well, he took the money.
He took the money and ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I hope he got a big chunk of that $20 million. Also in this movie, a cameo by Jerry Hall, who's just a woman who gets her blood sucked, and she gets to make some stupid line about being, you know, so liberal, you know, dumb white liberal guilt. Please don't hurt me, she says to Eddie Murphy's black vampire, but I understand that the black man has had a lot of tough times and the white man's civilization has kept him down, you know. Yeah, suck her neck, for God's sakes, kill her.
Get her out of there.
Get her out of there. Also, I thought it was funny, there's just a tiny little bit of Wendy Roby from The People Under the Stairs, who plays a religious nutcase in the cop shop. And Eddie Murphy's vampire has the power to twist anybody who's religious because naturally, as everyone knows, they're evil.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So
they are.
He twists her into trying to kill a cop so that he can change forms and escape. But it's just one childish thing after another. It's an awful movie.
Okay.
And I would say it's not even a good job of directing. Like, there appears to be scenes missing. It doesn't look particularly good. And why Brooklyn? You know, it's just so stupid. And Eddie Murphy putting on this bad Jamaican accent.
Vampire in Bronx would be better?
I think a vampire anywhere would have been better. But you know, Eddie Murphy, I think he comes from Brooklyn, or at least that part of U.S., and I think he just thinks that... I want to make this point. I think he thinks that, because it's so racist, it's racist against other black people, and it's racist against Italians. He has Italians calling black people eggplants. He has black people calling Italians goombas and guineas and stuff. And it's childish. And it's very much as he started when he was a stand-up comedian, when he was 14, 15 years old and going to the Improv and clubs in New Jersey, New York, wherever it was, and all his jokes, because you're a kid, you got no sex to joke about, you got no job to joke about, all you could do was poo-poo, pee-pee jokes. Right. And that's what this movie felt like. Childish.
Which kind of makes you think that nobody on SNL should do a vampire movie.
I don't think there should ever be a funny vampire movie. There's never been a good one.
Because Adam Sandler did the Hotel Transylvania thing. And
Yep.
So there you go.
You know, I can think of one funny vampire movie, Vampire's Kiss, but that is a black comedy.
Yes.
And it doesn't rely on comedians. It has real actors like Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
So I won't say there can't be a funny vampire movie, but Leslie Nielsen's funny vampire movies really sucked. Yeah, I think it was
Vampires Sunk.
I think Mel Brooks made it, I think.
Yeah.
Dracula sucks. Yeah.
But he did a good one with Frankenstein, but he couldn't do it with Dracula.
Could not do it. And as much as I enjoyed Leslie Nielsen in the Airplane movies and Naked Gun movies, and he is a very funny comedian, I don't think he's as good an actor as, say, Nicolas Cage.
No.
And so he couldn't pull it off. Or, for that matter, Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have a good script, a good actor, and a good director. If you don't, things are going to go badly.
Well, I think that's it for the second installment of Wes Craven.
We got one more coming up. Our next episode, we're going to be talking about another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Wes Craven movies and touching on several others. We will begin next episode with a review of Oblivion, newish Tom Cruise movie nice sci-fi movie that
is enjoyable.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it next week. And also going to do a review of K11, another one of these little movies